Good morning, everybody. Mark Finan here in the home weather office on this Tuesday morning. It's now the 19th day of November 2024, and this is the morning briefing coming to you from the home weather office. And as I look out the window, there's some clouds out there, but today is going to be another dry day throughout much of the area. However, there will be parts of California that do start to see some rain today before we get the main part of this atmospheric river into the area during the day tomorrow. So, going to show you the latest on the thinking of the models. There is a little bit of a change from what we saw 24 hours ago, and that change is exactly how far south this line is going to go. Just to back up a little bit, keep in mind that when we get one of these atmospheric river events, the difference between the haves and the have-nots is quite dramatic. In areas that we do see rain, we see a lot of rain. But geographically speaking, not all that far away, there are some areas that see very little rain. And exactly where that line sets up makes all the difference in the world. Now that we're getting this event into closer resolution on the models that I'll show you here in a second, we get a better idea of just where that line might be. Now keep in mind, in the big picture, the one thing that has been consistent in the models is areas like Chico, Red Bluff, Redding, Ukiah, Lake County, and points north. Those are all going to get rain and a lot of rain. Areas like Modesto and Sonora and Groveland, Yosemite, very little rain, especially around Wednesday, Thursday. Very, very little rain in those areas. But what about Sacramento? What about Roseville? What about Marysville? Those areas, it's that in-between area where we're starting to see that little bit of a shift. And I'll just show you the latest thinking here in just a second. So let's just start with the big picture. And this is, boy, if you had to write a textbook version of what an AR looks like, this is it. You can just see this straight line of moisture across the Pacific, and right here is the developing low. We have cold air getting wrapped into it from the north, and that is going to help to deepen this low. And of course, the other thing that's making a lot of the headlines right now is the bomb cyclone. Yeah, right now this low is undergoing rapid development, but that is going to have very little impact on California. It will have a brief impact on the west coast of Washington and Oregon, and I'll show you some of that here in just a second. But that's just the big low that's developing out here in the Pacific. What we're really going to be paying attention to is as that low spins around, it just drives the jet stream and this long fetch of moisture across the Pacific. So that's the way it looks on the satellite. Here's the way it's being depicted on the GFS this morning. So here's California, here's that developing low, and this is that fetch of precipitable water in a relatively narrow band. So again, that's the AR. And as we go through the day today and into the day tomorrow, this is tomorrow morning around 7 a.m., you can see that that area is now just focused into Northern California, and especially the coastal areas north of San Francisco, let's say north of Interstate 80 from Marin County through Lake County and toward Mendocino County. That's where you start to see the heaviest rain. So that's what the AR is, and you get it just going on and on and on. Let me back this up. So again, this is 7 a.m. on Wednesday, go to 7 a.m. on Thursday, and it really doesn't move. So there's 24 hours of steady rain. The thing that we will see Thursday is it'll lift slightly to the north, and I'll show you that on the models in just a second. And then as it weakens on Friday, that's when everybody gets some rain. Now, beyond that, there's another shot of rain that will likely come in on Sunday, a little bit farther south, but that'll be much shorter in duration. So it really is this period, Wednesday into very early Thursday, that is going to deliver all of the rain. All right, so that's the bigger picture. Let's look at, let's see what we got here. I'm on the HRRR, and we're going to look at the 12Z HRRR and show you how it is depicting the rain. Let's go to this afternoon. This is around noontime today. As you can see from Chico to the south, everything's dry. We're dry in the Sierra. And here is that tight pressure gradient up here. So this is where that quote-unquote bomb cyclone, that deepening low, is way out here off the coast. And where you have these isobars all stacked together, that's where you start to see the strong winds. Well, you notice you don't see that up and down the Central Valley. So if you're in, let's say if you're south of Redding and you're seeing headlines about a bomb cyclone and high winds and all the rest of that, it's not for you. It doesn't apply to you. But Crescent City and all the way up toward Bend, Oregon, and farther to the north, yeah, those areas will be impacted by some strong winds later on today and into tomorrow morning. This is this afternoon at 4 o'clock. We are getting rain in Lake County. I've had some notes, people saying, you forget about Lake County. No, I don't forget about Lake County. Lake County is going to start seeing some of the rain, the better rain into Mendocino County, and perhaps some light snow in the Sierra, but it'll be very, very light. And now as we get into tonight, this is around 9 o'clock tonight, we now have rain in Chico and points north. We have that heavier rain on the coast. We have snow in the Sierra, but according to this model, it's relatively light. Now, as we get into early Wednesday morning, I'll stop it at 5 a.m. Wednesday. You'll notice that we haven't seen any rain from Sacramento to the south just yet. The foothills are still dry. Now, this is at sunrise. And you also notice that this model isn't depicting any snow in the mountains at that point either. As we go into the day Wednesday, then we start getting some rain. This is around 10 o'clock in the morning on Wednesday. We have rain in Sacramento, we have rain in Roseville and Grass Valley. Snow levels are going to be pretty high, 7,000 feet or higher. The pressure gradient is now much, much weaker, so that quote-unquote bomb cyclone has moved off to the north, and so that part of the event is basically over. And then as we go through the day Wednesday, according to this model, we have some occasional rain around Sacramento. We have it in El Dorado County, Amador County, a point south, see very, very little rain. And this model is a little bit farther south than the others. And then this goes into very early Thursday. This is Thursday morning at 4 a.m. And this area is where the AR is focused. There's some residual rain down below it. But once again, if you just kind of draw a rough line along Interstate 80, the best rain is falling along and north of 80, and south of that, we are seeing little rain. Now, I just want to clarify one thing. I often use Interstate 80 as a reference, as quite often we do see much better rain north of 80 than we do south of 80. Don't take me too literally here. When I say there'll be very little rain south of Interstate 80, that doesn't mean that Natoma sees rain and Elk Grove doesn't, or that Roseville sees rain and Folsom doesn't. Don't take me too literally there, but just generally north of Interstate 80, Marysville, Chico, and north sees the rain. South of Interstate 80, Elk Grove, Stockton, the farther south you are, the less rain we see. So when I say I-80, if you're in Placerville, don't think you're not going to get any rain. You're going to get some rain. So don't take me too literally when I say I-80 into the north. All right, so that's the HRRR, and let's just look at total precip accumulation from this model, and this is through Thursday morning. This model, pretty robust for Sacramento, showing an inch and a half, but it shows about 4 or 5 inches of rain up toward the Paradise area, and then towards Stockton and point south, less than 1/10 of an inch of rain. So again, you can kind of draw that I-80 line here. But again, in places I mentioned, like Placerville, Camino, you're still going to get rain. But notice the contrast to the north, where these areas highlighted in blue, we have 6, 7, 8 inches of rain. The other thing that I talked about the other day with the amount of rain that we're expecting is in the areas where it's going to rain hard, is that at this time of year, the rivers can handle this quite well. We're going to see a rapid rise on the Russian River, for instance, but it will stay well within its banks, but it will all of a sudden come to life. For those of you that visit the Russian River, or if you're watching us from Guerneville, you know that right now the Russian River is, you see a lot of riverbed. You see the sandbanks, the rock banks in the middle of the river, that sort of thing. The river will come to life with this, and you'll see maybe a 20-foot rise on it, but that's well within its banks. That's a difference than if we had one of these in January, when all of a sudden, when the rivers are already coming to life and they're already flowing at a higher level. But at this point of the season, A, a lot of the rain starts to soak into the ground, and B, that there's a lot of room for this water to go into our area waterways, and so it can be carried out to sea rather safely. Wouldn't be surprised if there is some localized street flooding and that sort of thing in areas that do not drain very well. But again, we're talking about in areas in Butte County, Tehama County. And also, speaking of Butte County, Tehama County, for those of you that are in or near the burn scar from the park fire, there will likely be flash flood warnings that will come up from time to time from the National Weather Service. But do keep in mind that if you're in Chico, there's probably going to be less of an impact from that than if you are farther to the east, where the burn scar is a little bit more severe. But just kind of keep that in mind. If you hear flash flood warnings in your Butte or Tehama County, it's going to be applying to the burn scar. So I showed you the HRRR. Let's show you the NAM here. Now keep in mind the NAM doesn't quite have the same resolution, but it has the same idea this morning. This is this evening. There's that tight pressure gradient up on the north coast. There's some snow up to the north. And then as we head into the day on Wednesday, this is Wednesday morning at 7 a.m. We are seeing rain on the coast. We aren't seeing much rain around Sacramento and nothing in the Sierra at that point. Some other models have been depicting a bit more snow in the Sierra, and I did see the NWS put up a winter storm warning. There will be snow in the Sierra, but boy, the models are picking up snow levels that are even higher than I'm showing you here. They're showing some snow levels up around 8,000 or 9,000 feet. I think it'll be closer to about 7. And there will be likely occasional chain controls, but I think this is going to be more of a rain event than a snow event. And as you can see here, this is on Wednesday night. Just watch this area right in here. I'll back it up. So this is on Wednesday at around 1 in the afternoon. You see snow, let's say from Tahoe to the north. And then as warmer air comes in, these AR events tend to be kind of tropical-ish. It gets warmer, so the snow levels go up. So it may be one of those things, it snows and we have chain controls for a while, and all of a sudden it turns over to rain, and you just have slush on the summit. So this is Wednesday night. There's the rain, but then this model depicts in a much better fashion that lifting to the north that we see on Thursday. This is Thursday at 4 p.m. This model is showing much better rain farther north, leaving areas like Sacramento and Amador County and El Dorado County and all these points to the south dry before you see that area finally come back inland during the day Friday, giving everybody some rain and maybe a little bit of snow. Let's take a look at what the total precip accumulation is from this one. It's not quite as robust as the HRRR is, although a 3-day total of about an inch of rain in Sacramento. It shows the same sort of pattern, 10 inches of rain on the coast. But once you get south of Interstate 80, there's very, very little rain. So once again, I wouldn't be surprised if for those of you in Stanislaus County, Modesto, Patterson especially, and even a little farther to the north around Tracy, you may be seeing on your social media or on the news, depending on what news you watch, these inflammatory kind of headlines, atmospheric river, bomb cyclone, et cetera, et cetera. And in Modesto, you'll say, what was that all about? Whereas in Chico and Redding, you're going to go, oh yeah, that was some really good rain. All right, let me talk a little bit more about the quote unquote bomb cyclone part of this. And for that, I'm going to show you, I'm going to take you to Washington and Oregon, because this is where we'll see the wind. And I just want to show you kind of wind we're talking about, because I'm sure you guys are seeing the headlines. All right, so these are wind gusts off the high resolution NAM. And this is this afternoon at 4 o'clock. Now you'll notice that here off the coast, these are winds gusting to 70 miles an hour. Now, I highly doubt that anybody that's watching this is playing Bandon Dunes today, but if you are, it'd be quite the afternoon. But look at how the winds are very, very strong along the immediate coast, and then inland, they're very, very light. And that's at 4 o'clock this afternoon. Then as we go into the evening hours, look at how the winds diminish. And then once we get into the day tomorrow, this is tomorrow morning, you'll see those areas of yellow along the coast went away. Let me back this up a little bit because we do get into Northern California, the areas north of Shasta, and that area also has some of these pretty strong winds. But yeah, if your attention got grabbed by the quote-unquote bomb cyclone, that deep low that's developing, it's going to be causing some high winds along the coast of extreme Northern California, Washington, and Oregon for a relatively short period of time later on today. And as I mentioned yesterday, if you're going to be in a sailboat off the coast of Washington later on today, that's an issue. If you're driving to work in Davis, it's not an issue. So that's everything I've got for you this morning. So today we are dry in most areas. Tomorrow we get rain around Sacramento and Grass Valley and to the north. And for a while we could see some pretty good rain, especially if the HRRR is right. But it will also be handled quite nicely by our area's streams, creeks, and rivers. I don't think there's any concern about that in Sacramento County, Placer County, El Dorado County. I don't think there's any concern about our streams or creeks or anything like that. Wind, really not an issue. It'll be breezy. And snow, boy, I tell you, the snow levels, I think they're just going to kind of bounce around a little bit. And while we could have occasional chain controls on Wednesday, I really don't think you're going to see a huge impact on travel. We'll see what the models do about Friday. I know Friday, that big getaway day. So we'll see what the models do with that wave that comes in on Friday. We may have a better chance of some chain controls by Friday night, but that's a detail we'll sort out. So I hope that helps you understand a little bit better about the headlines that you're seeing about this atmospheric river and the heavy rain. Yes, there'll be some areas in Northern California and Oregon that'll be hit very hard by this storm, but many other areas will see very little impact at all. Make it a great day. I'll talk with you later.